Welcome dear friends. In this video we will solve screening test conducted by KPPSC for PMS 2026. The greenhouse effect is important for Earth because it maintains Earth's temperature. A budget deficit means government spending exceeds the revenue. Choose the correct phrasal verb. He tried to dash the fake painting as original. Pass off. High temperature affects enzymes mainly because enzymes denature. A fire hazard is different from a natural disaster because it can be controlled. The main purpose of using fine adjustment in a microscope is to increase resolution. The 18th Amendment strengthened federalism in Pakistan by allowing federal provincial competition. A summary may become less objective by incorporating direct quotes or metaphorical language from the text. Pakistan's foreign policy increasingly reflects partnerships with multiple powers. The Khilafat movement was important because it helped in mobilizing masses for socio-political change. The difference between Deen and Mazhab is that Deen is based on divine system while Mazhab is based on particular school of thought. The vertebral column is commonly called the backbone. A planet without sufficient gravity may suffer from loss of atmosphere, which condition may create inefficiency in public sector projects. Excessive financial resources. The Islamic principle La ikraha fid deen means religious belief cannot be forced upon individuals. Neurons communicate mainly through electrochemical signals. Militancy becomes difficult to counter when the militants have a strong ideological narrative. IMF programs usually require conditional structural reforms. A dual economy refers to the presence of both formal and informal sectors. Power substances are characterized by the fact that they have definite chemical composition. Choose the proverb closest in meaning to accepting an unavoidable situation. What cannot be covered must be endeavored. Choose the synonym of mysterious or sacred. Arcane. Reported speech is often used in summaries because it allows the writer to maintain a consistent reporting tone. Choose the correct passive construction. It is said that the old mansion was haunted. Non-traditional security threats are important because they are introducing new dimensions of security and governance. Enzymes are mostly made up of proteins. One major obstacle to space exploration is technological limitations. Islamic modernist movements generally emerged as responses to intellectual and political challenges. The political evolution of Indian Muslims before independence reflected a shift from nihilism to mass agitation. The basic purpose of revelation is to provide guidance. A weak state response to terrorism may show decline in morale and reliance on informal channels. Sheikh Ahmad Sarhindi mainly opposed theological deviations. Pakistan's security policy often reflects alignment and national security considerations. Education policy failures in Pakistan are often linked with political instability and policy inconsistency. A suitable approach to improve service delivery is public-private partnership. Congress' reaction to certain constitutional proposals before partition included opposition to dominion status. The ritual of Sai commemorates Hajra's search for water for Ismail alayhi salam. Learning is important because learning modifies genetic potential. Antibiotics do not work against viruses because viruses lack metabolic pathways targeted by drugs. Distorted religious understanding may be described as divine but misinterpreted. Pakistan's strategic relations with China are often viewed as a way to counterbalance India. In Islamic ethics, ihsan is higher than adl. Nuclear capability in Pakistan's security policy is associated with deterrence and defense of sovereignty. Quaid-e-Azam's August 11 speech is often interpreted as a constitutional vision of a civic state ensuring religious freedom. Proxy policy refers to support to non-state actors for strategic aims. Choose the correct preposition. He is suffering dash favor from favor. Enzyme specificity is mainly determined by the active site structure. Tafsir Jalalain was completed by Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti. Which Pakistani intellectual is known for the philosophy of Islamic modernism and reform-oriented thought? Dr. Fazlur Rahman. Sheikh Ahmad Sarhindi's insistence on orthodox revivalism was primarily aimed at reinforcing Muslim identity against syncretic practices. The major contribution of Ibn al-Haytham to science was the formulation of experimental optics. Message of Surah Al-Kafirun is disassociation. Seasons occur due to axial tilt of Earth. The stage in the grave between death and resurrection is called Barzakh. Biological pest control is preferred because it is species specific. Plants are called primary producers because they convert solar energy into chemical energy through photosynthesis. Which factor best explains the consolidation of Muslim political authority in medieval India beyond mere military conquest? Co-optation of local elites and administrative pragmatism. The word sijil mentioned in Surah Al-Fil most likely refers to hardened clay stones. Choose the correct form to follow the phrase, it is high time. It is high time we started taking climate change seriously. Which significant change regarding education was introduced by Article 25A under the 18th Amendment? Right to free and compulsory education for children. In Pakistan, the Green Revolution increased productivity but also widened socio-economic disparities. The basic democracy system for electing assembly members represents a compromise between democracy and limited voter literacy. The term strategic depth in Pakistan's security policy historically referred to relations with Afghanistan. Periphrastic means circumlocutory. The Islamic principle governing peaceful coexistence with other religions is most closely associated with justice and mutual respect. One of the central challenges of Pakistan's education system is inequity between urban and rural access. Don't touch the wire, it's live. The electrician warned us, which is the most effective report. The electrician warned us not to touch the wire because it was live. Choose the word closest to the opposite of capricious. Steadfast. Choose the sentence where the present participle correctly expresses simultaneous actions. He sat by the window watching the rainfall. Energy conservation in homes is best achieved by improving insulation. Select the correct form to describe a state of being that caused a subsequent reaction. Shocked by the news, she dropped the letter. The Muslim League's position during the Quit India movement demonstrated strategic distance from the movement. I wish I had not spent so much money, she lamented. Select the correct indirect version. She regretted having spent so much money. Pakistan's involvement in African countries during Cold War was primarily support for anti-colonial movements. Muhammad Ali Jinnah's transformation from an ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity to a proponent of the two nations theory reflects the failure of power sharing in a majoritarian framework. Why do Madaris resist government regulation and compulsory registration? They fear loss of autonomy and interference in finances. Identify the correct verb form for the following inverted sentence. Behind the ancient ruins of the temple lie the hidden treasures of the kings. Pakistan's economic dependence on remittances indicates vulnerability to global labor market fluctuations. Pillars of TIAS are 4. Which sentence correctly identifies the subject in a one of the dash ho construction? He is one of those individuals who always put others before themselves. The Arabic word Saum literally means abstinence to refrain. Surah Al-Nasr indicates all of these, which includes victory, completion of religion, and nearness of Prophet's passing. How should the primary thesis be placed in a well-written summary? It should open the composition to establish context. Political polarization in Pakistan is exacerbated by patronage politics and weak institutions. Geostationary satellites are useful for communication because they remain over the same point. A hadith reported by many companions but few later is mashhur. A balanced diet must contain vitamins mainly because they regulate metabolic processes. The targeting of women's education in militant areas reflects rejection of Western cultural symbols. Zakat becomes obligatory when wealth reaches the minimum limit called nisab. Sound cannot travel through vacuum because it requires medium for vibrations. What distinguishes a summary from a paraphrase? It synthesizes multiple viewpoints into a condensed perspective. Identify the antonym for nadar. Zenith. The meaning of the word al-maida is the table of food. The resignation of Congress ministries in 1939 resulted in direct rule by provincial governors. The central ideological divide over the nature of the Pakistani state in the early days of Pakistan was between groups differing on legal enforcement versus ethical inspiration of Islamic principles. Pakistan's demographic transition is characterized by high fertility with a growing youth bulge. Education reforms in Pakistan often failed due to short-term planning and lack of continuity. Thank you for watching this video. Stay blessed.